Yeah, there we go. Jared, hello.
Hello there.
We're going to have a conscious conversation
Love
uh,
it.
based around no structure, no editing, totally raw. Who are you? Where are you? What do you do? Why do you do it?
Okay. I am Jared Moses. I am currently at this moment in Illinois, the US. Um, I I started a company called One Brilliant Arc, which is all about helping marginalized people tell their story and own their story, and fight back against systems of oppression, to ultimately own who they are. Uh, and I do it because I recognize the need for folks that look like myself and even folks that don't, are oftentimes squashed out by systems that are much bigger than them that don't want us to tell our stories. And that stories are the things that ultimately change the world. And so the only way to really change hearts and minds is to make sure people can tell their story in whatever way possible.
Beautiful. That's a
Thank you.
that's a rather epic, succinct, and lovely elevator pitch. Have you
Thank
practiced?
you. No, I actually always worry about like when people ask me, what do what do you do or why do you do it? I always like, I don't know what to say. I don't know. Like I know in my heart why. I just never know like what to say in a way that doesn't come off as kind of verbose and just like ranting and rambling. So I'm just as surprised as you are that that was as as it was.
This is the
It's
beauty of
early
just
for me, so
doing
maybe early mornings make me
just
a
like
little bit easier to a little more succinct than normal.
yes, actually, there's probably something in that because you're undistracted by external information now. It's like what, 7:30 in the morning for you. So if
Six
you're
six
kind of,
49 actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, nice and
Yeah.
bright and early. So
Yeah.
you're unaffected by the external influence right
Yeah.
now. And so when
Yeah.
I've asked you just a really succinct and simple question, you're just straight in to answer it. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's there's a huge thing around that, around being undistracted, particularly in the
Agreed.
morning when we're first coming out. What is your morning practice, by the way?
um, it's nothing special for me. It's generally getting up and jumping right into work. Um, but sometimes I've been trying really hard to read uh first thing in the morning more often. Like if I wake up at enough time that I'm not like late for something, I try not to be late for things, but if I'm not like late to, I work, I work at home, so I don't have to like go anywhere. But if I like have meetings or if I have something like that, then I don't really have time to read. But generally, if I have time to read, I try to read because I like to really start my day off with other people's thoughts, before I let myself flood in with all the things that I'm thinking, worried about, or anxious about, or whatever. I like to do that. So I'm usually reading something.
Nice. What are you reading at the moment?
I am just finishing up Asada Shakur's autobiography. I just finished Malcolm X's autobiography. I want to say 2 weeks ago. So I'm doing Asada Shakur's autobiography now, and fantastic. I love it so much.
Amazing. Amazing. What was your takeaway? Because Malcolm X, I would imagine, is just so far up your street in terms of the storytelling, him telling his story, his fight against depression, all of that amazing stuff. That's a life changing, his story,
Absolutely.
life changing, right? What's
Mhm.
your takeaway and main inspiration from that one?
There's so many. The ones that I things that I really loved was one, the ability to change one's belief and thoughts and still keep your core ideals. So Malcolm X began in the beginning of the book, in an early part of his life. He was, especially when he started doing his activism type stuff. He was very much anti white people, um anti integration, anti interracial marriage, all of these different things. But towards the end of his life, he began to start to see that while he never really came around to the idea of integration, he did come around to the idea of that, not every white person was his enemy. He did come around to the idea that, it's a lot of situations are really case by case basis, and that as long as we're all working together towards some form of equality, anyone can be an ally. And I did like that. I also the other thing that I just really loved about it was by the end of it, I genuinely felt like I knew the man. I felt like I had always heard about him in school and things here and there, but when you read the book, it was almost like he was a friend of mine. And the interesting thing is like when the person who ghostwrote the book does his little chapter at the end where he talks about the writing of this thing and his time with him. I found myself of trying to avoid the part where he mentioned in like detail because I was genuinely heartbroken because it was like this is a person I know who's dying, and that was a really powerful thing. And I just loved that just reinstated to me the idea of narrative and how when you tell your story, people genuinely know you or they get to know you. And I think that it only reinforced my reasoning for believing that we need to help people tell as many of their stories as possible because with what's happening in in my country right now, there's so many people that are so dismissed out of hand because of they don't look like what's conventionally okay, or they're not, or their preferences are not what's conventionally okay. But if we just sat down and heard someone's story and listened to someone's story, we might see that there's a human being in there, and that's what really matters from the start. So that's ultimately, I think that's the biggest takeaway I took away from it.
I love that. The actual interesting that you're saying about the humanness
Hmm.
and that it's like going into the lens, isn't it? When you read a book like that with Malcolm X, it's like you say, you get to know them, these autobiographical works, and you get to know them, and it's like seeing through the lens into the heart of the human that's sharing that story. And I guess that's a lot of why you do what you do. So one
Hmm.
brilliant arc being would you call it a publishing house? What do you call it?
I've always struggled to define it. To me, it's a revolution. It's a rebellion. It's a
Oh,
revolution.
yes, it is,
That's what
Jared.
it is.
Yes, it
That's what it
is.
is to me. We're a revolution that just happens to help people get clear on their story in whatever form that they want to tell it and tell it. That's what we do.
Yeah, beautiful. And are you giving it sounds like you give complete creative freedom to however they want to express it. What what
Absolutely.
what are the guidelines? Like, how do you work it?
So for me, and the team, I always tell them how somebody wants to tell their story is completely up to them, as long as they follow the rules of it remains true. You don't sanitize it. Don't don't tell me the story that is marketable. Don't tell me the story
Right.
that is
Yeah.
going to be acceptable to whether it's corporate culture, whether it's mainstream media culture. Don't worry about people yelling at you, calling it woke. Don't worry about any of that. Tell your story as it's meant to be told. And that's all that really matters to me. There's limits, there's people that we won't work with. I've made this very clear to my team. There's certain people we won't work with. There's certain stories that is while I do ideologically believe that everybody has a story worth telling. I believe that. There's some stories that
Yeah.
I won't hold space for in my space. Um, Stories that are about projecting hate, stories that are about furthering narratives that are not helpful to the to the goals of what we believe. Um, those are things that we're not interested in centering. Um, so for us, it's just really about making sure people are speaking their truth. without flinching. One of my team members he said this quote that's kind of becoming the DNA of what we do, where he said, "Your story is a soldier, and the fight for," he said, "for the fight for good." But we're I think we've kind of changed it to your story, everyone's story, or one person's story is a soldier in the fight for change. And so in essence, we're making sure that we people, our company in general, we know that there's competitors. We know that there are coaches out there because we do coaching, we do editing, we do help people get ready for what they need to do. But a lot of people that are doing coaches and stuff like that, they're so busy handing out what I like to say, they're handing out boxes of tissue and telling people it's going to be okay. We are handing people rifles and we are telling them use your story to fight back and to change things, and because that's the only way things are going to get better. So I think that's what ultimately makes us different. Like I always tell people, we're a revolution. We're a rebellion. We're not a company. We're a rebellion. So
Yeah, a rebellious revolution. I mean, that's
Mhm.
all that right there is the heart of the Malcolm X story as well,
Yeah,
right? That was
exactly.
one man's story as well, you know. That's what gets me about these things and these inspirational people. That was one man, like one man, and the changes that he made and the influence that he had and the legacy that he left. Like
Hmm.
controversial, hell yeah. But how else do you get a revolution? How else do you begin a revolutionary movement unless it's uncomfortable, unless
Hmm.
it pokes people? You know, we're
Hmm.
afraid to be um, disruptive. We've
Yeah.
been, and this is a lot of what your work is, right? It's like you say, there's so many people right now in both of our countries that are dismissed, oppressed, put in boxes, told to be a certain way. We have a belief that we have to be good girls and boys and conform in a certain way so that we get our rewards or whatever it is. And
Hmm.
I speak to a lot of people in corporate structures and hierarchy structures where that's truth day to day, still in 2025, still ticking all the corporate responsibility boxes, but not actually following through on encouraging people to be who they really are.
Hmm.
And that could be, yeah, slightly rebellious. We've all got a bit of rebellion in us, I reckon, don't you?
I think so. I think we need to. I think we all have that. I think I think we're intrinsically designed to. I mean, regardless of what your belief system is. I mean, if you happen to be part of the Judeo-Christian alignment, growing up in that, one of the things I clearly learned early on is that human beings are bred and designed to rebel against the norm. It's one of the reasons why when I left, um, I don't want to call it the church, but for lack of a better term, when I left the church, I had told my mother that, like, to me it's weird that you expect me to stay and do this and follow these rules, where in the very Bible that you gave me since I was a little boy, the first story is a story about one, an angel rebelling against God, and then two, about humans rebelling against God. And yes, there are consequences of it afterwards, but that's okay. I think consequences are necessary. Um, I think that if you're going to, our company specifically is fighting against more than just people. It's more than just about people telling their story for us, at least for me. It's I'm fighting against the systems of white supremacy. I'm fighting against the systems of patriarchal oppression. These are things that I want to fight against and I want to dismantle them, because when you really look at the source of any form of oppression in the world, they all seem to lead back to those two things. They all seem to lead back to white supremacy, no matter where it is. This isn't just an American problem. This is worldwide. They
Yeah,
always seem to lead back to white supremacy and the patriarchy.
yeah,
And it's not about. This isn't about feminism. This isn't about um, everybody who's white is racist. Is nothing like that. It's just purely the idea that those foundational beliefs, those foundational patterns need to be dismantled. They have to be. And so, in order for us to be who we need to be, I'm a humanist. first and foremost. I believe in human beings. I believe in what we're capable of being. I know we're capable of being great, but I think the only way we can do that is by dismantling those things. So I think when recognizing that, when you talk about people needing to speak their truth and say their things and not sort of hold back, I think the other side doesn't use half measures, so we can't either, and that's why OBA exists.
Oh, yeah, no half measures on our watch. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel similar about like the age of superficiality and where we're going with AI, and that's a whole conversation in itself. But just I'm very passionate about also being a humanist, believing in humanity, believing in the heart of things, and believing in our ability to change the collective. Something just kind of popped in for me around just a quick I wonder. Um, I wonder. I kind of studied for a long time non-duality and the idea of collective consciousness, and that's kind of where when we're in service, then we're in service to the whole.
Mhm.
And in terms of non-duality, I wonder how that fits. Like, how does that fit with rebellion? Because rebellion and revolution, in its own way, there's no right, wrong, good, bad here. But from my perspective, like rebellion and revolution in some way creates duality because it's kind of us against them. But
Mhm.
in some ways, it has to be, I think, in
Yeah.
being human. But then also, how do we then marry that with non-duality and feeding the collective, do you think? I don't have an answer for it. It was just a question that popped in.
I don't know, and I don't have all the answers. I wonder. To me, I wonder if it's the same as like people who believe in socialism versus communism, where socialism is the necessary belief and ideology that has to exist in order to get to communism. Perhaps
Um,
non-duality is a thing that we it's the idea, it's the ideal place we want to go to. I dabble in stoicism, and one of the things in stoicism they talk about is the stoic sage, this idea that you'll never
yeah,
actually get to be the stoic sage, but it's the
right.
idea of what you want to live towards. I think that the idea of no duality, I think, is it's an ideal that we all strive for. But in the world that we currently live in, I think that at least on my mission, knowing that I'm not trying to combat people, and my number two is always. I told her yesterday, I was like, you are the conscience of this movement because I know I get really angry and I get really wrapped up in my desire to push forward.
Yeah.
And she's always like, we're not attacking people, we're attacking ideas. And
Oh,
so in the idea of attacking ideas is that recognizing that sometimes because have different ideological beliefs or we have different ways of seeing the world, we're going to be on opposite sides. And this rebellion is to
yeah,
dismantle the idea, not to dismantle people. And sometimes there are going to be people that are for those ideas that are in the way. And so we have to kind of go through them to get to a world where we can be that can be that non-duality, if that makes sense.
yeah. My alarm's going off because we've been talking for 15 minutes.
Oh,
But we could talk for hours. I love this conversation and I love what you're talking about because it almost kind of brings it into, yeah, we are in a war on consciousness, if you like, and this is about us all as individuals and as a collective and as a race raising consciousness. And so if that non-duality space is a level of consciousness, it goes back to those kind of seven levels of consciousness and going in the basic needs of fear and then coming up to transcendent those, that's Maslow, isn't it? But anyway, Um, yeah, it's going through these, coming towards these ideals of consciousness rather than, yeah, there's a whole thing around duality and non-duality, and there's no, because we are human beings in a body experiencing emotion, getting, I mean, where does our passion come from if we don't have our sacred rage against the world and the injustice? The
You're
huge thing that feels kind of, that is being purged for us generally as a collective, that I'm really seeing in my networks and what I do choose to watch, which is around this whole thing of, yes, being pissed off occasionally, and yes, using that as sacred fuel to fuel our missions, and then because you've got your wonderful team, then also you're surrounding yourself with people who can, between you, you're in this really lovely soup of, yes, you can get passionate, and then yes, you've got other people to support you in terms of finding your breath again and finding your center again, because
right.
otherwise it's very easy when we are passionate and we're high achievers and we want to make a difference and lead a revolution, that how do you switch off from that unless you've got a support network, a good team, good friends, the family that you choose, all of those things, right? So it's just kind of all of us doing it together, isn't it, in our own unique way, and that gives us, and the writers and the leaders, that gives us every right to our whole emotional spectrum that we want to experience
Yeah.
and use in a conscious way. I think that's the importance of this whole thing, is consciously choosing that, yes, I consciously realize this is disruptive, upsetting, uncomfortable, all of those things. How can I channel that? How am I going to anchor this energy and channel that in a positive way? And you and I put it into the work that we do and into our business. And so
Mhm.
and leading by example in that way, yeah, that's the way forward for me.
I
So
agree. I
I
agree
wanted to
completely.
go on.
No, I was just saying I agree with you. I completely agree with you.
It's a big one, isn't it? I don't know if a
It
conscious
definitely is.
conversation can be contained in 15, 20 minutes now. We've had a practice run, but here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I was I was trying to figure out how that was gonna work as far as like the tight nature of it, because I know how these conversations are. You have the first like 5, 6 minutes to really warm up, and then once you get going, it's like, okay, we gotta have this conversation. Um, but no, I mean, I think it's awesome. If you ever decide to go like full on podcast with it and go a little bit longer, I would definitely love to do
Let's
that
do,
with you.
yeah, let's do it. I don't even know where this is going. I just came into the idea of conscious conversations, record a kind of somewhere between short form and long form content so people can get a good feel for kind of how we vibe, what you do, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And to be honest, this conversation, our conversations always leave me wanting more anyway. But I think that could be where it's going as well, is like 15, 20 minutes, not enough. Like now we need to do an hour podcast episode, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, let's do it. Let's allow it to lead into that.
I love that idea. Um, Not just that idea, but I love how you dive into it, not even knowing where it's going to go, just seeing where it goes. I was just having this conversation with one of my mentors the other day about John Cena, and we were talking about how his philosophy is one that I'm learning to adopt to myself, because I'm around a lot of people who are always talking to me about manifestation, and they don't manifesting the things you want. And for me, I struggle with the whole manifestation thing. But John Cena's philosophy has always been he doesn't manifest anything. He just lives life, and when opportunities present themselves, because the opportunity, I tell my number two that she got really nervous about, like, there was an opportunity that came and we missed it, and I told her opportunities are like driftwood in a river. They are always coming along. You just got to be ready for when they do. But the thing about John Cena is that he lives his life, and when opportunities come, he just doesn't. As he says, he doesn't put a window in front of the door, where he just kind of stops himself, like, well, what if this doesn't work? Or he just goes. He just goes for it, and whatever happens, he has no idea where it's leading. He has no idea what's going to happen. Sometimes it's a really amazing experience, and sometimes it's not the greatest. And I was like, I think that works better for me than manifesting things from happening. And maybe it's a roundabout way of manifesting. I don't know, but to me, the idea of just kind of letting life happen and going wherever it goes, and walking down a path and just saying, oh, there's a trail that goes that way. Let me see that goes, and then seeing what happens is it's the only real way to live life, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I do live that way. Um, I do plan and I do forward vision, but I don't get attached to a specific outcome. So like I'm not trying to manifest a specific car or house or whatever. I'm manifesting the way I want to feel, but I'm in that now. So what you're saying is really it's that sense of presence. It's like if I'm fully present now and I'm alive right now and I'm appreciating that I'm alive right now, I'm not distracted by what happened then and I'm not distracted about what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm just here now. And because of that, my periphery is open, my head is up, my eyes are open. I'm ready to receive, like you say, whatever opportunity, whatever bit of driftwood comes along next, because it's all around us all the time. It's just
Mm.
being in that mindset of allowing it and not being too, because people get into the process of manifestation, but they're coming from a place of, I don't have it yet and I want this thing. And so they're caught in a eternal loop of lack, essentially, because I don't have it yet. Please let me have the thing. I don't have it yet. Please let me have the thing. Well, if I already have all things, again, it's another deep conversation about parallel universes and all the things. But if everything is available to me right now, just being as I am, I wonder where that path does lead. I wonder what that color does. It's like it's coming into that place of curiosity and being here right now and being curious. And yeah, I love that level of curiosity. So that said, let's stop the recording on this one. Thank you so much for being here. Tell me quickly,
Of course.
because I am going to put this up. We will put this up on somewhere. Tell me quickly where we can find you.
You can find me. You can find my company. That's where I direct people mostly, and that's www.obaconnect.com. That's where all of our writing is. It's where everything that we're doing is. We're looking at getting a regular website, but it's our Substack, so it's where we are at the moment, and that's where I direct people to.
Oh, I want to talk to you more about Substack as well. But Jared, thank you
Sure.
so much. Let's
Of
leave that
course.
one.
Thank you for having me.